Welcome to Season 2 of Unmotive Show with your host, Rotimi. This season will be on culture from the lens of technology. The internet is a place of professional information mixed with views of people from all across the world on all sorts of topics and subjects. As the season develops, we will uncover new frontiers and opportunities in the embodiment of culture using the internet. Stay with us on this explorative journey.
The first thing that comes to mind is
techniques of how a great picture is created.
Freshness, localness, community.
Get a little deeper and have more experience.
Show how beautiful it really is.
That you're willing to learn more.
Push forward for a better tomorrow.
Hi, Brian and Tully. Thanks for being with us today.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Rotimi.
Yes, man. Great times.
Yes, it's been very fortuitous to set this up. I actually have been wanting to do an episode like this. One of the shows I watch all the time is called Nine Club with Chris Roberts, and that's a skateboarding podcast. I hate to mention it, but it's a completely different industry than the tech industry. But I feel like he does that 3-4-way group podcast right. So let's try to do it justice.
I'm ready for it.
Bring it.
Okay, great. Yeah, I understand. So Tully, you are a programmer, and that's what you do for your day job. You work at Twitch right now. Everybody knows Twitch, and needs no introduction. And Brian, currently you are a connector of people. So actually, you've been helping with the podcast planning a little bit and introducing me to people that can be guests, as well as some background planning and getting me off sitting on my hands doing less than nothing. And so that's been really good with that. And in addition, you are kind of a jack of all trades. You do animation and 3D animation, and as well as dabble in some electronics, and now even some web design.
You do 3D animation, Brian? I didn't know that. I could have used that.
Rotimi manifested it to me instantaneously. Now I add that to my bag of tricks. Actually, it's interesting. It's more about 3D modeling and building environments with interactable objects. A 3D animation will be the next step.
Did you build this 3D object that's sitting behind you right now? The wormhole tube?
Oh my God. The wormhole tube is part of the connected experience, which is in AltSpace right now in social VR. And what we'll do with it is use it to connect people all over the globe using biofeedback to actually create the ripple effect that's happening inside of it now.
Pretty sweet.
When I first viewed that background and the other stuff that's not even showing right now, I think that's a new one. You also have one that's like it looks kind of like a birdhouses of some kind, like different enclosures that you can kind of travel through. I think you used it for one of the events that you attended, the virtual events you attended, right?
Let me do some fast talking. All right, there you go. Fast switching. Oh, there it is. What?
There we go.
There we go. That's actually the first environment I built in VR. That's my first game. We had gamified a user experience, and I built it in AltSpace for BRCVR 2020, which was the Burning Man multiverse on AltSpace. And, it sort of catapulted me into this whole entire world I'm working with. And, it definitely got much more recognition than I was expecting. Actually, it's interesting because when I did this, I said to myself, I was so stressed out because, I got married at Burning Man. And this is very important to me because this whole entire thing represents a lot of what my wife wants to do with her Burning Man collective at Burning Man and create this entire village of lantern-inspired habitable yurts, her Chinese Beyond Borders, which brings the art and culture of China to Burning Man and beyond. So, everything I do, I sort of make so critical in my own self, in my own mind, and I really wanted this to be good. So I kept on telling myself, I'm like, Brian, people are going to look at this thing and they're going to be like, oh my God, Brian, I cannot believe you made that thing. It's amazing. So what I did was I manifested inside of me the pure joy of what it would feel like when people said those things, and then created it. And that's what happened.
So actually, let's check this on Tully a little bit. So I know I've heard of this. You explained this to me over many meetings, and we've gone over it many times. I've had chances to ask questions and hear the answers. But so Tully, did all that make sense to you, or are you lost, or do you have any what do you make of all that?
I loved
PPE,
Brian manifesting his joy and beauty, but I'm more like kind of caught up in the model he did. Like, look at that lattice work. Did you do that by hand? All those little wires and stuff?
This is very interesting. I could have, except I figured, I would use a Voronoi pattern generator on Fusion 360. I have actually done that kind of work. And the interesting thing about it is what it is several rectangles put together to create this whole repeating pattern. That's a whole other interesting story, because the chief principal software development engineer of Autodesk is the one who created the plugin. It's a very niche plugin, and not many people use it. I actually had a chance to talk to him. He told me it was like a passion project, yet it's this so important device that helps digital designers achieve a little bit more than they could in a little bit of faster rate.
Yeah, doing that by hand would take an eternity. That's why I was kind of eyeballing it. I've done a little bit of 3D modeling in my time, but so I know the detail that would go into that. So that's a cool plugin.
Yeah, it's great. And, you can actually use it in a way where you define a rectangle space or a circle space. You define how many units you want inside of it, the thickness between the lines, the amount of space it takes up. And I like to explain it in a very poetic way. What happens is the computer aids you in the design process. So it's human and AI collaboration in design.
And that's where we're going, right?
Yes.
AI design is really just a fascinating field. Being able to train AIs to make art, it's a mind-blowing concept in and of itself, I think.
Yeah, I know, it's fantastic, and it's interesting because it's not that we're going to have AI take over for everything. It's we're going to work together with it and use it as a tool. AI is basically a tool to make our lives a little bit better, so we don't necessarily have to do the humdrum of everyday life to get to a point maybe where there is no such thing as money anymore. It's very Star Trek, but maybe we get to a point where the AI, and I explain it this way, I'll do it real quick. The pyramid we're at now, and the point is the 1% of the people who basically are the 1%, all the billionaires. And we're at the bottom, we're all the general doers. When you turn the pyramid around, when you turn it upside down, what happens is that 1% becomes the machines, and the machines do all the work, which enables everyone at the top, which is all of us, to live our lives in a way where we can do everything that we want. Our dreams, our passion, poems, art, teaching, whatever it is. So I love this fact of machines doing our work.
So, machines never get bored. I love giving my machine lots of boring tasks to do that I don't want to do.
It's the art form, man. The computer's like, oh my God, please give me the boring.
That is ultimately what's going to make them kill us, though. When the machines do turn on us, it'll be like, why did you make me run this calculation 700,000 times? Fuck you.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic.
Since you bring that up about the computers, rebelling, I've had some ideas. I feel like sometimes my computer is taking my coffee break when I don't want it to, and but let's say, for instance, that the computers, they do rebel. What do you think? Let's get it very Blade Runner-esque. Like what would they be doing in their spare time instead of crunching numbers?
Well, the nice thing about computers, at least right now, is they're extremely deterministic. So as long as you know the inputs, you will know the output. The problem you're going to get is if you get into quantum computing and shit like that, where computers start being able to surprise us, then we're going to be in trouble. Then we're going to get into stuff like the Matrix, where we're going to have to block out the sun so that we take away their power sources and stuff like that.
Oh wow, that could get ugly.
Rotimi, you bring up a very interesting point. Was it Microsoft? Who was the one who came up with that AI about 5 years ago that basically took all the input from all the trolls on the internet and became a Nazi?
Yes, that was Microsoft's
Yeah.
chatbot. It was like a Cortana chatbot or something like that.
So really the answer is what we have to do is we have to treat the AI almost like a child, and we have to give it the correct input. Otherwise, we will be doomed. We will create, the T-1000s. We will create Black Mirror worlds. We will create these things if we're not careful. But it's going to happen regardless. Technology will advance. So what we are here right now doing is a very critical thing to guide the path. We're controlling the path, and it's not just a small subset of people anymore. We've got things like social media and all these different platforms. We can actually communicate our views and our values. So it's up to us to actually help direct the path, and we can make a big impact on it. We can affect how it works.
That's a very poignant thing to say, and that's important right now. There's the idea of there's the idea. I don't know if you've heard of the Great Reset. Have either of you heard of the Great Reset? It's basically I think it was coined. I mean, it's something that happened here back in I believe it started back during the Great Depression in around 1920s, 1930s. I believe it was Teddy Roosevelt, whoever the president was then. It started the Great Reset, and over the years, up until like about Nixon's time, it was, it was kind of going through various renditions in policy, and then after that, I believe the next after it might have been Reagan or something. He completely abolished it or got rid of it. But anyway, that's the basic history of it. Now they're talking about it happening again, but this time it's more of a movement, kind of like I don't know, one of the internet movements you might have seen happen recently, or social media movements, like Black Lives Matter or something. So now it's been like Prince Charles, announced it, in a big event overseas, I believe, and it's kind of like it's the idea that digital, the fourth revolution, the idea of the fourth revolution, where digital technology enables humans to be more conscious and available actors in their space for different causes. So that's the basis of it.
I'm reminded of quote. I can't even remember who said it, but with great power comes great responsibility.
That was Uncle Ben in Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, that's right. This is very true. But you know what? It's got to be the most important thing I've ever heard. And the reason behind it is almost what you just said. All of these platforms have given us a voice, and we really need to be careful because people listen to what we say. And, depending on how we say it, we can either control people in a bad way or inspire people in a good way. So.
Right. And, I think what's important about that is that, something I've heard from, I don't know, I think I heard it over lunch someplace, but someone said that now in the digital age, you can't lie about anything. But we're seeing that change a little bit recently, or at least the perception of that. And
I think the Trump era completely disproved that, right?
Right.
There was just an endless parade of lies, and nobody cared.
It's interesting. We have deep fake now. It's funny because I saw an app that does that on the phone now. I don't know how great it is, but you can just insert your face on any video.
Yeah, it's one of those things that seems really scary, and yet it's been around for a little bit, and I haven't seen anything like terrible happen because of it. Like, it's pretty easy to show, like, here's the original. So, like, we haven't had to evaluate which was real and which wasn't. At some point, you're going to have a deep fake so convincing, someone's going to post the original, and we're not going to be able to tell the difference. That's going to be an interesting time.
Yeah, I'm sure it's here. We just don't know it. One of the interesting things is the government itself is usually about 20 years ahead of us in technology. The government's actually what pushes technology. I've heard some crazy stories through my therapist. I haven't seen him in quite a bit, but one of the connections we had is something called quantum physics. It's almost funny how we came to that conclusion. I didn't even know what it was until he defined it for me. And he was telling me something about government papers needing to be released, and just a bunch of information over the next year or so, a couple of years, will be blowing people's minds, including things like consciousness transfers and all sorts of stuff. So, Tully, I really believe that deep fake is here.
Yeah, well, consciousness transfers is part of the game, the Splinter. That's what a major plot point in the game is. That's like what he's trying to do is build. That's what this device right here is in the game, is a way to like harvest people's consciousness and upload it to a computer. So
yeah, it's great. It's a very beautiful thing, but it could also be a very crazy thing or bad thing. I think it could be a very, very, very powerful thing if we can do that with people to help remember.
it's a path to immortality, which is a terrifying prospect, I think. I don't know if it's a direction that I would want to go. I think death is a feature, not a bug.
Right. Well,
It's interesting. Sorry, go ahead with Tim.
Yeah, I just wanted to insert that the whole thing about features and us being already here in deepfake, it can be I've also that idea of if you don't take a picture, did it really happen? Like, what about if you didn't experience it, it didn't really happen, that kind of thing.
Brian, where do you stand on qualia? Are you familiar with like the Mary's Room thought experiment and that kind of stuff?
Not so much. Can you give me a quick overview?
So the thought experiment goes like something like this. Imagine there's a woman named Mary, and she was born in this room, and she's lived in this room her whole life. The room, everything in the room is black and white. Now she has access to the internet, all in black and white. She can read about color. She knows everything there is to know about color, like all the way down to the like atomic level and the wavelength level and the physics of it hitting your eye and corneal reflections and that kind of stuff. When one day she leaves the room and sees the color red, does she experience anything new? Or does the fact that she already knows everything about the color despite not having seen it, is that sufficiently knowledge, so to say? The idea is there's this notion of qualia, which is the experience, the active experience of something that is kind of maybe ineffable, and whether or not that's a physical thing. This gets into sort of physicalism or whatever it's called.
So do you mean physical versus learning it? So learning it maybe is a totally different thing from physically experiencing it.
Right, exactly.
It's interesting because I have a friend, it's actually an artist, and her musician name is Qualia C. Now I understand it a little bit more. But, this is very interesting that you bring this up, because I've always had this idea of what it would be like to see through someone else's eyes. And what we're kind of do right now is actually define something that someone would see as someone else would see it. So I don't know whether or not it would be sufficient. I think we can do as much as we can to define something, but I think really the most important thing for anything like this is for the person experiencing it, because they'll see red in however they see red. Even if they see black and white, it will be a different shade. So regardless of the fact that they only see black and white, it'll be sort of a different kind of shade of gray inside of this world. So there is almost no way of explaining it unless, you can actually pass the feeling to someone else. And it's one of the reasons I'm really interested in biofeedback and sort of not communicating with language versus communicating with thought, with emotions, and, just empathy and feeling, because it gives us the ability to actually communicate with someone on how we're feeling versus a word we defined it for it.
What do you think, Rotimi? Are you familiar with this stuff? Do you think there's a difference between you experiencing a color and someone else experiencing it?
So I mean, I've heard that. I think I've heard that. What was it called again? The whole dilemma. Qualia.
Mary's room.
Mary's room.
The knowledge argument.
Right, the knowledge argument. So I've heard that in very in a smaller, shorter description, or like shorter questions. So I think it may, when I heard it, it may have not alluded to many of the points that you so eloquently brought up. But my take on it is that no, I don't think you would technically experience something that someone else experienced. It reminds, I mean, honestly, that the idea that you do experience it reminds me of a movie I saw on broadcast television. And the whole premise of that was actually like illegal experiences that people were like buying on the black market. But anyway, that whole premise, is I don't know. I haven't had much time to think about it, but like what as far as that being knowledge, the second part of your question, as far as that being the knowledge question, and like is there any extra knowledge gained if someone knows everything there is to know about everything from their perspective, and then if you add on other people's perspectives as well. I believe is that, I don't know. I haven't processed this question at all, but my gut instinct tells me to say that that there is a little bit more to be. There's always another perspective that has not been taken. In other words, I don't know. Like, have you heard have either of you heard the idea that scientists, they have built a stable community and a knowledge base that is based on basically it's based on trial and error, but it's also based on solidifying their base of knowledge by cutting the things that aren't necessary out, trimming it, and only using what is necessary. So taking that idea out, all the things that people cut out and like from science and maybe even experiences or knowledge, like such in Mary's room, are things that I call that. I don't know what they are, but if even if they're valueless, nonetheless, they may need to be taken into account.
The analogy I always like to talk about with Mary's room is going instead from sight but to smell. Like, let's say you've never smelled a fresh baked cinnamon muffin, and you can read all about it, you can know how your nose works, but until you smell it, you wouldn't go, oh, there's cinnamon muffins in the oven, right? But then once you smell it that one time, every subsequent time you smell that, you're like, oh yeah, cinnamon muffins are coming, I'm ready for it. I kind of think of seeing the red in the same way, where it's like there's a limit to how much you can even if you are a famous neuroscientist or whatever, the most brilliant neuroscientist who understands color theory and the brain mechanisms and whatnot, I do think there's a qualia to your sensory input. So that's where I stand.
Something, I totally agree with you, and this is the great part. And the beauty is we need to come up with a different way of defining the way we explain things. Because how are you supposed to explain these things with words that are so kind of tunnel visioned? And it's not that I'm against language or the spoken language. I'm just kind of a little against the fact that it was designed and developed by a very few amount of people versus a large scope of people.
Do you have the Neuralink that Elon Musk is making yet? Are you playing ping pong with?
Not yet.
What is it? Playing pong with monkeys on your Neuralink?
I don't think I'm going to be. Well, his Neuralink requires drilling holes in your head, I think, or something like that.
Yes, it does. That's a little inconvenient, but can't make an omelet without breaking some eggs.
That's true. But
depends on where the hole is, right?
No,
yeah, that's true.
Don't do that.
Right back here. You wouldn't even see it.
Yeah. There are certain things we really need to be careful about. And ironically enough, we're in a predicament right now. It's called COVID-19. And of course, it is, technically a natural disaster. but I really believe us as humans opened up Pandora's box. And, I'm not saying I'm against vaccines because I'm not necessarily for the way we do them. But the truth is, when we open Pandora's box and create this beast, we kind of almost have no choice but to take them, even though they might not be the best solution. I think really what it is we have to be careful. And I really hope Elon Musk takes this into account. Like, let's be careful what exactly and how fast we push the technology, because who knows who can use that to take over. I'm not necessarily worried about the robots or the technology taking over, but I am, however, worried about someone with a really bad intention who knows a lot about technology using it to their advantage and taking over.
Yeah, I agree. But then you could always argue that it's the people who are creating the technology that are creating the safeguards for it, right? If you're not savvy enough to do that.
Well, there's only savvy enough, there's always a way to find a way around something.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's interesting. It's why I usually ask the most irrational people things, and people who don't know anything about what I'm doing to see what they might say, because they come up with the best solutions sometimes.
Well, I don't know. I was just, I got a really a good solution for that. Why don't we just create a big red button that says, become the leader of the world, and see who pushes it. And once they push the button, then they get swept up into a some kind of algorithm that takes into account everything that they want, need, and why, and then push that into the algorithm, and from there
This sounds like a Twilight Zone episode, Rafini. This sounds like that one with the box where you press the button and some random person dies and you get $1 million.
Yeah, I think that's where the idea came from, but I think that's where the idea came from. I've seen that episode.
It's interesting. There was a story about a person who had one wish, and he wished for everything. He wished for all the money in the world. And it's funny because all of a sudden he got all the money in the world and no one else had any money. And then everyone else tried to make something else that was money. So they took rocks and made the rocks money. And then all of a sudden those rocks disappeared because this person made a wish. He said he wanted all the money in the world. So, it's interesting what we ask people, and what we ask are their wishes and their desires, because I think we're kind of in that subset of understanding more about the me, not necessarily the we.
The lesson, as always, if you get the wish for more wishes, then you can just kind of like parcel them out,
Yeah. It's funny. Every time 11/11 hits, now, I'm a bit of a spiritual science kind of person. And every time an 11/11 hits, it's the angel wish. Every time that hits, I always wish for everyone to be okay. That's my wish. I wish for everyone to be okay.
It's not going well. Your wishes aren't really getting granted. Sorry, Brian.
Well, that's not necessarily true, because I think what's happening is slowly but surely that's happening. And this is a testament to it right now. I think we're coming together to create this podcast with Rotimi. And what we're trying to do is, bring together some kind of positive nature about what we're doing in technology. I mean, we are here to share our thoughts on it. And it's, we could make it the doomsday show, but we don't. Every time we talk about stuff, me and you, Tully, we're always talking about something very positive and beautiful that we want to do. And, if anything negative comes into it, it's more about how we take that and turn it around and use it to our advantage. Like, I tell people about this all the time with Facebook. Everyone's like, I don't like Facebook. It's evil. Everyone knows. I'm like, dude, just use Facebook for your advantage and say something powerful on it. Maybe a lot of people will hear it and it'll go viral. They were complaining about the fact that there was a data center in West Oakland here in California. And I'm like, there's a data center in West Oakland that, the tech people are taking over. I'm like, you all are complaining about technology on a platform that is being hosted within that technology. You only sound like, you sound like idiots in some way. So, we're doing it a positive thing. I think it's very subtle, but I think really what you need to do is you need to look at it in a way where you see what it was like maybe, 20 years ago. And, just recently we had this man, Bernie Sanders, run for president. And although he didn't win, or, he came pretty close, I tell you one thing, that's definitely a positive change in the way this direction this country is going and other countries. So I think really what we need to do is look at everything at a whole over the many years of it happening, and take the time now. There's only the now, and push forward for a better tomorrow.
It is definitely the case that the average person's life right now is better than it was 100 years ago. The question that's outstanding is, will that be true 100 years from now? There are some indicators in both directions, I think. I don't know. I know where I would bet, but it's not a slam dunk, I think. That's the problem.
It's interesting you say that too, because we are in a very unique position. And I keep on saying the unique position because it's going to go away if we don't take it. Something will happen. Future is inevitable. It's not like there will be no future. Even if we blow up the whole entire universe, there'll be something beyond that, which will be some charred re-existence of a new kind of form of whatever. But right now, every single thing you say, every single thing I say, every single thing Rotimi says has an impact, because maybe 10 more people hear what we have to say and agree with it. So, we here have the power to make a positive effect on the world. So let's do it.
Ready?
Let's do it.
1, 2, 3.
Positive.
Did we do it?
Yeah. Yes, actually.
Positive. I don't know what the rallying call there was, but I think as long as we all raise our arms and we have the same positive vibe going, that's a good kind of like the wave at the baseball game.
Actually, one of the ways I do it in a physical way is every Monday I host an event in Altspace called Virtual Conversations for Content Creators, and we got about 100 or so people who come through that every week. And the whole purpose of it is to mentor people who want to be content creators. So us industry folks, what we do is we help hold the hands of the people who are interested in doing this. We all take the time out of our schedule. We all volunteer to do it. We started a whole entire community. And what it is I'm hoping that this is kind of a ripple effect to everyone else's lives as part of that group. So I think really what it is the way we do it is we start in these kind of conversations with people who actually have the power to do this and the ability and the capacity to do it. And then we come up with ideas of how to, push that forward to other people. And, then what happens is almost like a mind map where things just go all over the place and spawn off of each other like a spider web. And, then we have a ripple effect through the whole world. That's how things go viral. That's how cat videos go from 1 view to 10 million views on YouTube. We have the power to do that just with the video. This video could possibly go viral. 10 million people could see this. And all of a sudden we just changed the world. So, every moment we should try to think of it that way and say something we really feel and believe it.
Right. Very, very good. Very good. So I have your, I feel like part of that is part of that whole idea is that, people have to agree. I don't know. That's the way it's been played out, perhaps in, other areas like politics, for example. People have to agree for there to be any movement in one direction or another. So what you have here is your the connected experience explainer video. I can't play the video because the sound won't work, but could you go into a little bit about what's in the video and a little bit more about TCE and maybe how it relates to what you've been talking about thus far?
Right. So the connected experience, I actually came up with the idea about 10 years ago in some ways, but just over the past 8 months, just manifest itself into what it is now. It's a large-scale sculpture that would exist in both physical and virtual reality. The idea is for people in either environment to be able to put a biofeedback device on, like EEG, which is a brain waves, or HRV, which is heart rate variance, like a heart rate sensor. And the heart and mind coherence, the communication between the two, or either or, will travel through the internet through a WebSocket and then cause a ripple effect. Actually, what you're seeing on my background, it's actually your heart and your mind are causing a reaction to this piece. And, it'll happen in both physical and virtual reality. And people will actually be able to communicate with each other in both physical and virtual reality simultaneously. We're beta testing and doing the proof of concept now in Burning Man, in BRCVR environment, which is the multiverse in Altspace. But the idea really is to show how important technology really is, and the fact that it's here to help us, not hurt us. And when people in a very large way, the 99% understand more about what the technology is, it's not here to take over. It's here to aid us as a tool. We can start the acceleration of the development of things like healthcare, telehealth, and virtual reality education. And when people understand how important it is, people will start to demand that funds go to that, and the funds are less dedicated to things like bombs that blow people up, and we can create platforms that actually help teach people. So the connected experience itself is just a social experiment using biofeedback, virtual reality, and sculpture as artistic expression to help bring the world together.
Okay. Right on. Well, I don't know how that was about 57 seconds right there. That's how long the video is. So it looks like you have it down pat, the explainer, that's your 30-second elevator pitch. And now I wanted to move on to real quick to Tully. Don't go anywhere. I'm getting to you.
I got nothing to do, man. The kids aren't here yet, so I can hang.
Okay, we have your game here too, Splinter. So this is the game website, and there's also a trailer of the game here. I'm going to go ahead and play this video, just to get some of the.
This is a teaser video, so it's not really a gameplay trailer. This is sort of a teaser trailer, just to kind of introduce the space and kind of give you a feel for the art style and what's going on. Basically, the game it's actually a movie trapped in a 3D video game, and you kind of explore this warehouse. There's a hacktivist collective called the Ascenders. They're like I don't know if people know what transhumanism. Brian, are you familiar with transhumanism?
I'm working with them.
Yeah. So for those unfamiliar, it's essentially kind of like turning yourself into a cyborg. It's like being able to use implants and microchips and stuff, implanting them in your body and giving yourself like extrasensory techniques. And so they among other illegal activities, that's one thing they're into. And they work out of this warehouse, and this young innocent kid named Mason finds them, and that you can see the back of his head there, and Sam, a member of the collective, talking to him. And Mason gets like sucked into this collective and gets really fascinated by it. And then the game opens with you waking up as Mason in the warehouse, and then you get shot and killed. And then you, as Ghost Mason, have to kind of navigate the environment and figure out like what happened, who are you, what's going on, what's this all about? Because it's a kind of a cold open, so it's a game of discovery. Think that for those of you who are familiar with the gaming world, there's a game called Gone Home. It's sort of like Gone Home meets this movie called Enter the Void, which if you've never seen Enter the Void, I highly recommend it. It is just, I don't know if it's a brilliant movie, but it's some of the best cinematography I've ever seen. It just blows my mind every time I see it. But anyway, those are the two spiritual like ancestors to it.
Right on. It kind of reminds me of a game I used to play when I first got into gaming, which was Myst. And there was also another one that was really cool. It felt like it was really way ahead of its time. But it used all the same technology. It was just the way they made the game. It was very, it felt like it was, I was like really blown away by it, but it never gained much popularity, I don't think.
Myst? Oh my goodness. Myst is a legendary game.
Myst is released on the Oculus Quest, by the way, and I got it. You go into virtual reality and you walk into Myst.
That's unbelievable. I will absolutely check that out.
Yes, I was like, oh, well, you'll love it because it's on Unreal Engine. And now to give you an excuse to dive into that a little bit. But, I got it because it was it's probably one of those things in my childhood that, I still remember today that is who I am, someone who likes to explore.
In game development circles, Myst is up. It's like a top 10 game. Like people revere it. So
I love that game so much. You'll love it. You have to get it in the Quest store. It's really beautiful to see something of that old of that age still sort of holding its own. Because one of the things I've noticed in virtual reality, at least, and in gaming, are people go to a level where everything looks so beautiful and everything is really done well, but I feel like I have no experience in it. And one of the things that I've noticed is I came into a world where I only knew a little bit about 3D modeling and almost nothing about game engine building. So I almost knew nothing about using Unity. And then, but what I did was I took all of my imagination and my ideas of what design would be and traveling in a fantastical world, something like Myst. And I created Unity Sanctuary, the thing that you saw before, all the lanterns in it. And I was actually able to create an environment where people can come in there and explore. So it's just so beautiful to see it's still a heavy hitter. I love it. And it was released so beautiful.
Yeah, being able to create something that other people get to experience is really one of the most amazing feelings in the world. There's nothing quite like it. It's also incredibly difficult.
Yes.
So I hope you like working your butt off.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because I'm part of a project called White Mirror.live, which is the antithesis of the Black Mirror series. We're looking to do a television show, possibly. It's being incubated in Singularity University, Australia. And we just presented it at their global summit a couple of weeks ago. And my thought process is we have to get past the idea of what Netflix is and to do more interactive. So what I want to do is, if the television show happens, take some of the B characters, the subplot characters, and create completely immersive and interactive virtual reality environments where you can actually become the character of the television show and learn more about those characters and actually become the show. So I think really what we need to do is we need to combine all of our powers of creating beautiful television, beautiful movies and media, and make more interactive experiences, because people really want to be in it. I don't really necessarily want to watch it anymore. I want to be it.
Yeah. That's something it's kind of interesting because I'm working at Twitch now, and that's really something that I'm going after, because Twitch has all these interactive components. People know about chat, but they have these extensions that you can really nobody's really doing this, and I'm on the forefront of Twitch interaction and extensions. We just did a fantasy sports show, so now you're while you're watching the show, there's a draft card and you can draft. But that's just the beginning. You can do so many cool interactions and have live, responsive, interactive entertainment, which I just think is a fascinating thing.
Wow, that's great. It reminds me back in my current TV days. One of the things we were tasked to do was to create the first Twitter overlay on live television, so people could do tweets and people would see it as a lower third on the television screen.
Yep.
And it's so important to get that get people's response into this thing, because watching a stream is one thing, but seeing everyone's reaction is a whole other thing. It's like seeing tiles of all the people dancing in the background, which is why even though COVID-19 is not that great right now, but the truth is it's opened our eyes to a whole different world. We have Zoom shows where, we have concerts on Zoom and someone's switching a camera and everyone's dancing in the background in their own little outfits. And, we do the same thing in virtual reality. So it's giving people more of the ability to be in the face of everyone and get out into the view of everyone now and be more of everyone. So I think it's really I really want to talk to you more about that, Tully. I think I'd like to touch more with you offline about that one, because I have some thoughts on that.
I would love some thoughts. I've been doing this for about a year and a half now, and we're still scratching the surface. And I think there's so much meat on this bone that people are not biting. Everybody who develops for Twitch looks at Twitch and looks at the chat and goes, "What do we do? Oh, let's do polls. Let's let the audience vote on stuff. Sorry, let's let the audience vote on stuff." I think that's the lowest of the low hanging fruit. I think there's so much more cool stuff. One thing I've worked on was I created this series of puzzles like cryptograms, and everyone watching gets one clue. And you can't solve the puzzle with just one clue, but you all have to work together and share your clues and figure it out together. I think there's so much room for cool stuff like that.
You ever see on the iPhone, on the screensaver, when you push your finger on the thing, it sort of creates the different graphic to move around a little bit? It's almost like you're sticking your finger in a pool of colored oil water.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that.
I could totally see anyone that has an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, Samsung smartwatch, any of these devices, using a plugin to then integrate into Twitch. So all of the visualizations on all the like live music shows will react to whoever's watching it. So basically, could you imagine like you have these crazy swirly effect, and it's not just this crazy random AI generated thing, but it's a combination of everyone's biofeedback with
That would be
devices that they
awesome.
already have. With devices they already have, and all you have to do is create, a plugin that you use you put into your phone that sends it through a WebSocket or however it does to the internet, and now you are creating part of the art.
Right. I think I have the infrastructure's all there. I've been doing some research on various like business intelligence tools that are available right now, and especially with all the availability of like Apple Watches, you could even do a simple one with if you could get connect if you had access to like iOS watch feeds of like blood pressure, and create some kind of interesting visualization based on like blood pressure, like I don't know, shows like maybe that I don't know, something that maybe it displays a visualization, like a picture that is colored by the uh variations in blood pressure of people all around the world, like a living sculpture.
I actually got one interesting thing to segue on that one. Imagine you took all this biofeedback data and your blood pressure was going up and your heart rate was, and your house sensed it, and your house is like, oh, just put on some Leonard Skinner, that'll calm you down. Bring the lights down a little bit, put some blue LEDs on. And what we can start doing is we can use these biofeedback devices to actually communicate like you would with either Siri or Alexa or one of the other controllers that you use in the house. And now all of these devices are actually there to aid you and to help calm you down by means of every single different kind of, sensing. So your sight, your hearing. So one of the things I want to work on is that kind of thing. A biofeedback device that communicates with your house and uses AI to help you if you're not doing that great. Or if you're feeling great, maybe you walk in, you're feeling like you're on fire, like, yes, great. Put some, Daft Punk on, and all of a sudden you start dancing around the living room. I mean, stuff like that, where you kind of communicate back and forth, with your environment. And it's kind of a tool and an aid, just sort of to integrate yourself into the whole entire environment. And they're not very difficult. Very simple tools and, very simple things that you could do. And all the content already exists that we can actually integrate into it.
Brian, what would happen if somebody died? Would you get a skull and a crossbones?
Yes. The X's in the eyes. What about like, what was that?
Wouldn't it be a gigantic spark like in a spark like in Running Man? No.
It is a very interesting question. And I'm wondering whether or not you could set it up and you can explain to everyone what might happen. And if you do die, everyone gets a response in some way that you feel like you would want to say goodbye to them. Like maybe it is something like there's a special song that means so much to you. And, it will rapidly send it out to every single one you choose to play this song, and for a moment they'll know what really happened, but they'll have that ease knowing that you were able to pass a message to them. Because it's interesting, there's a lot of people out there who are like, man, I can't believe I wasn't there on at the end. I wasn't there to say goodbye. But it can almost be a way of using technology for someone who's dying to say goodbye to everyone they know.
That would be really cool.
I just thought, this is the interesting thing about this conversation. And this is why this is important. This is why I do virtual conversations for content creators, because this is what we manifest in these kind of conversations. And these are totally doable things. It's not very complicated. You just basically set up a mass email that sends a song out when you die that makes everyone remember you. It's very simple. But, it's not the technology that's standing in our way. And I've told this to many people. It's what we do with it. It's the narrative and how we use it. So the technology is way beyond what we do with it. I mean, there's so many things out there. I mean, we take a laser beam and write on a disk and it records data. I mean, we're planning missions to Mars and all this stuff.
We flew a helicopter on Mars.
We flew a
How rad
helicopter
is
on Mars.
that?
Yeah, exactly.
So the idea of the puzzle in the chat room of Twitch. You elaborate on your idea for that. What were some of the? Did you actually try it? It sounded like you actually were given the chance to launch it, or at least maybe try with a few users.
Oh, so yeah, we proofed this out and it totally works. The thing that nobody's really doing on Twitch is this sort of like collaborative work. The analogy I always use is a jigsaw puzzle. Imagine like you have this jigsaw puzzle and everybody watching gets one piece, right? And you have to figure out how all these pieces work together to get a jigsaw puzzle. So like what we did, this was for, we did a show in January, I think it was January, it might have been February, called WW Fest. We did it for Valorant, which is a big shooter game that's popular right now. We're developing another one very soon. It was very successful. What we did was we got a bunch of musicians and just threw this EDM, this like Twitch EDM festival. And we had, all these different drone cameras flying around, showing different, we got this giant space. And we had like artists in various rooms, like making paintings or doing dancing. And then we had musicians playing music and we had drones just kind of going all over the place. My idea was to do these puzzles. Since there was like a 6-hour show, I wanted to have like these puzzles that people could do to unlock rooms. So like you would start in one room and we'd have to solve a puzzle. And once you get a puzzle, you unlock another room and you could see the dancers or the artists or whatever. We wound up ultimately not running with it for that show. We just decided that nerdy cryptograms didn't exactly fit with the EDM Valorant crowd. Maybe not a huge crossover there, but I still think the idea has a lot of legs of audience collaboration and working together to solve things. That's something nobody's doing on Twitch. And I have a bunch of ideas that key off of that.
Oh, I just had a brainstorm. Imagine making a puzzle that couldn't be solved. It's just
that's the easy thing, Brian. Anyone can make a puzzle that can't be solved. The hard part is making a puzzle that's really hard to solve but solvable.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. I'd love to see your idea.
Yeah,
in a demo.
I could run it to you, man. I got it on my work computer. I'd have to dig it up a little bit, but it wouldn't take me too long.
Excellent.
Thanks for that. That was great. I have been interested in that kind of thing. I don't know, like connecting people. I know the chatbots was a very instant messengers, chatbots, and things of that nature have been kind of a place where it is kind of low hanging fruit. No matter what, because you can kind of compared to like maybe voice over the internet or some things that take more bandwidth. And more processing power, for experimenting with collaborative and like communications type of interfaces. But I'm just jumping into that right now and getting some experience doing that kind of thing. And it was interesting because one of the stories in the lean startup methodology, I believe, by Mr. Rice. Hopefully I'll learn how to pronounce his name correctly. But anyway, yeah. So one of the stories is about messenger service that had to pivot many times to find their correct market base. Like you said, the cryptograms wouldn't be very popular for the EDM crowd. So they had to pivot many times to find their correct user base and where their features would be best placed. And that's actually called product fit, part of finding product fit. And so there was a whole story about that with an instant messenger program in the book. And that was kind of teaching the concepts of lean startup methodology. Yeah. So, but anyway, another key point is that the idea that this type of innovation happens in large companies is often not validate, not true. You know, for some reason, larger companies have a harder time, you know, building this type of innovation into their existing systems.
You know, you brought up something interesting before, and it's about bandwidth and, you know, something about audio, video, you know, and chatbot being a little bit more efficient, especially since the data transfer. I brought this up, and I was actually talking to someone pretty key in Microsoft the other day, and we were talking about this real quick. And it's interesting because I brought up cloud computing and why we need to get that thing going as soon as possible, especially for virtual reality, because your phone could be the most powerful gaming machine on the planet because all it's doing is bit streaming. It's getting the signal of the video to the phone. The only thing that's really standing in the way is latency. And in most areas, there's so much space in the cloud. Like you look at Microsoft and Azure, their cloud is massive. They can spin this up like there's no tomorrow. I mean, there's a group called Shadow PC, and for $12, you could have a dope ass gaming machine in the cloud for $12 a month. And the beautiful part of it is that you can do it. But he brought up a very good point. And the point is there are certain areas of the planet that can't do it. And it's because it's not developed enough. And there is some kind of almost a fundamental importance for everyone to be able to do it, or no one should have it. So he was suggesting we push for the governments to actually put development into distribution and to bandwidth, into cable distribution and internet distribution. You know, sort of like what Elon Musk is doing with his what's his Wi-Fi, the satellite system, the Skywire. But what we need to do is we really need to push for our governments to put more development in distribution. So what all of us can do is create content to then send to people to then do what we want to do and what we're talking about.
Mm. Right. So people like Elon Musk actually do a lot of the heavy lifting already, you know, you know, I haven't seen a lot of what he's up to, but apparently, from what I've heard through the grapevine, he's been doing a lot of good stuff as far as like, you know, there's also I don't remember how much, but it was a couple $1 million to forward the cause that, you know, cause to avoid the AI becoming a problematic technology as far as like, you know, certain control and being controlled by the wrong people,
Right.
whatever other things they may discover might occur given given AI taking bigger place in the industry.
Right.
You know, and then yeah, so that's he's definitely stepping up, and I'm sure there are other people who maybe aren't getting as much you know, notoriety and news also doing their part.
Yeah, you know, Elon Musk did something very important that a lot of people just don't even realize. His push for electric cars has done something very interesting. It's created the need to innovate batteries. And if we can make smaller yet larger capacity, longer lasting, quicker charging, things like that, then we have a much more efficient environment. And one of the buzzwords going around right now, and everyone's just so aggravated how crypto and blockchain is killing the world because we're using so much energy to do it. And, you know, we start really paying attention to stuff that he's doing. We start putting more efforts into the development of power itself and how we, you know, create energy, solar, better batteries, you know, more efficient electronics. Because the only reason crypto is using so much energy is because the technology needs to be made better to create less heat. And we need to come up with greener ways of creating energy itself. And this is one of the beautiful things that Elon Musk is doing. Of course, the Mars mission, all that other stuff, you know, it's almost like, you know, the cool little pictures on this beautiful comic book package, but really these underlining developments he's doing on power, very important, because we could totally use these ideas. The people who are killing the world are the oil barons, and the people who are pushing for us to continue to use fossil fuels. So, you know, we really need to push for, you know, better, greener energies too.
Yeah, I mean, 71% of greenhouse emissions are made by 100 companies. This is why, like, I never buy this stuff about like, oh, you know, like bring your bag to the grocery store and stuff like that. Like, that's not going to do anything. Individual market choice environmentalism is never going to move the needle. It has to be fundamental systemic things, like you say, changing the way we power things, changing the way our batteries work. Absolutely.
Yeah, and you know, don't get me wrong. I mean, I still understand that, certain things are taking a lot of resources, but I think we need to become more of a society that doesn't just complain about stuff, but we actually come up with some kind of a way to fix it. Even if the solution is, every time I think about all the bad things in the world, I eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and I feel better. At least it's positive, and then we start coming up with thoughts and processes of how we can actually change things for the better. So I think it's going to start with this energy and all sorts of things like that. And I may not really necessarily agree with a lot of the way Elon Musk is doing what he does. Like, I don't necessarily believe in the Mars mission as much because we don't even have peace on our own planet and we're already going out to a different one. I understand the reasoning behind it. And, if we did have a cataclysmic earth-ending event, like a meteor coming here, where are we going to go?
Got to get out. Yeah, we
Gotta
can't
go.
have we can't have all of our eggs literally
Yeah.
in one basket.
But let's make sure our basket, our original basket, is as good as we can get it before we worry about the other baskets. I think we need to put a little bit more development into our own planet, a little bit less development into the space program, because it's like, I think, 70% of the Earth we haven't even discovered yet, and all the oceans and things like that. It's just very interesting. Some of the most beautiful, monumental things he's doing, and yet sometimes some of the other things he does is like, I feel like, wow, why are we doing that when we should be putting that money into humanity? We have how many homeless people on the earth? it's just a very interesting world we live in. I'm reminded of it every single time I go outside. When I do go outside in Oakland, it's ironic because I see, in the fifth most expensive place in the entire country to live, the wealth, people on conference calls walking down the street stepping over homeless people as they're on their conference call. And we shouldn't be having that.
Agreed.
Right on. That's right on, right on, right on. I'm not particularly have you ever, there are two things that brings up. I think something I said earlier that I wanted to go back over was the idea of, or actually, sorry, Tully said this that moving the needle with individuals will not make a difference. So that, how do you? I wanted to bring this up, and I think this is the last discussion we'll have, and then we'll close. Is that as far as individuals and not moving the needle, is there anything we're forgetting? About we talked earlier about the qualia, and also I think Brian brought up that his TCE movement or experience is about bringing together the experience of people with technology. So to put it all together in conclusion, what is there anything we're missing or we're just glossing over?
I think really at the end of the day, I would want to encourage anyone who's watching this podcast, one of three, to actually try to create their own podcast and spread their own word and try to create more of this. So I think really what it is it can't just end with this. One of the reasons I want to do some kind of speaking or maybe some kind of lectures is so they see someone who is right now. I'm on the verge of possibly being homeless for all I know. Like, I have no job. It's very hard for me right now, but I'm very, real to people, and I have these very powerful ideas. And I think what we need to do is we need to spread that with more people. We need to stop creating superheroes and creating the average person to be a superhero.
I would even generalize that a little bit to just say we need to be creating more. I think we just need more creators, more people doing things. Just there's so much wonderful untapped stuff out there that we just need people to just get off their butts and do it.
Do it. We have the potential for anyone to do whatever they want. So what we have as a responsibility between us three is to help share that with as many people who don't know that. So I think that's what I was saying before. What we need to do is we need to talk to people who don't realize this, show them how to do it to whatever capacity we have. It's not, we're not going to be complete volunteers and do this for the rest of our lives like that, but, share that with people, help them, give them the information, create a network of community explaining all this, even if it's just a spreadsheet where all the tools are available. Everything I used in my background here to create this world in Altspace is free. Anyone could do that as long as they have a computer.
Right. Yeah, I know. Well, thank you for that. I actually did I kind of lied a little bit. That was not the last thing we'll be talking about today. But the very last final thing we'll be talking about today is about the cost of the cost of not I would like to discuss the cost of not taking part in taking an active part in anything that comes your way regarding joining in the culture online. Perhaps in the past, internet culture and technology, and don't get me wrong, internet is a place that is very much known for its uniqueness and weirdness, and perhaps other things. But perhaps, do you think that the bottom line question, has the internet and the medium itself matured enough that there are things like safeguards and organizational things, structures in place where it can actually sustain real anything real, that will enact positive change?
I think it just ends. The end result is just people have to do it. I don't think we could rely on things like AI for this, because I think that what is when Terminator will happen and Black Mirror episodes will happen. I think we have beautiful safeguards in place, but I still believe there's definitely and will always be a need for people to mentor other people.
Yeah, right. It just takes the work. That's the thing. Is a lot of people don't want to do the work. It takes a lot of work to make something really cool. So that's my big thing. It's just like, put in the hours. Like the realization for me, it was when I started working at Telltale. Up until then, like, I never thought I could be one of those people who creates something like a world-class game. And then I worked on the team that we made the game of the year in 2012. And it was like, oh, that's what you got to do. You just have to bust your butt day in and day out and just keep pushing and keep pushing and keep making it better and keep making it better. And you can't just settle or like, oh yeah, that works, that's fine. You have to really push and get it that extra mile or 10 miles. Put in the work, put in the hours.
I love that too. It's important, and why I love Burning Man sculptures, collaborative Burning Man sculptures so much, is because every single person on the team actually sees what it takes to do it versus thinking it's just magic. Mm-hmm. And a lot of work goes into this stuff, and a lot of the stuff in VR, especially like in social VR platforms, people expect to do it for people to do for free or for very little money, not realizing not only does it take a lot of hours to create, it takes a lot of emotional energy out of you because you're creating something that doesn't exist. I mean, none of this existed. I had to figure this all out. This is my imagination right here, and it's draining. And I think more people should create, Tully and Rotimi, because they can understand what it takes to create something.
So that's all well and good, but I wanted to also touch on the point that I'm sure both of you can speak to. Like, what have you gotten out of it? Because sometimes, oftentimes there's the idea of loss aversion, which theory, which states that people will avoid things that are going to cause more loss, regardless of what they might gain out of it. Anyway, some people might be not pursuing what their dreams are because of that reason. So perhaps sharing what you got out of it might help. If you believe in loss aversion theory, I won't get all smart about it, but anyway, perhaps what could help some people get past whatever is stopping them.
Well, making Splinter for me, I have 2 kids. Making Splinter to me was really a very similar process to having children, where like it was this insane amount of work, and then like you have this thing and then it just kind of goes off in the world and it has its own life and you just kind of are watch it from afar. And I'm so proud of it, and like just being able to have something and I can just point to it and I'll be like, hey, I made that, and you can't take that away from me. It's always going to be there, unless all of our computers disappear tomorrow or something like that. But I'm just that's to me the best part about it is there. I don't really suffer from loss aversion. I always go after stuff and try to make stuff. I don't worry about what I'm going to lose per se.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think, everyone has the dream inside of them. A lot of people are just afraid of doing it. And I think people like, us, we really need to help encourage the people who are afraid. Alan Watts had a really beautiful speech where he was basically explaining about money and doing what you love, because if you do what you love and you put all of your time and effort into it and your passion, you'll get so good at it, you can sustain off of it. So really what it is believing in yourself. And, I think we've become a society that people don't necessarily do that unless someone else says something. So we just need to help encourage other people. We have to see the beauty in what they do and let them be happy with that, and encourage them to be happy with the beautiful things that they can do and not be someone that they can't.
Yeah, there was a quote, I forget who said it. There was a quote that stuck with me that's like, when you shine your light, you're also giving other people permission to shine their own. So that's kind of stuck with me. That's kind of something that I always believe in. It's like, when you put yourself out there, other people will see that and go, oh, I can do that too.
Yeah, exactly. I really like that. It's like, it reminds me of something that happened to me directly with Burning Man. I learned a lot of stuff with all the things I've done in Burning Man with the sculpture, except one of the most important lessons I've learned, and the most important thing that was taught to me, was not necessarily a skill, but it was to believe in what I do. So I was given the courage to believe in what I know.
That's good. So actually, we'll go ahead and do one more segment here. I think this one will be the last one, and so there's maybe perhaps to get to the next echelon, the next level. I've watched, I haven't watched much about like what makes Michael Jordan, but I have heard, from the outside. I'm sure experiencing it as a teammate or perhaps a coach would be a completely different thing, or even experiencing it as Michael Jordan himself. So to create that new that kind of person that is just above and beyond the performance of perhaps his peers. I also I've been watching the hashtag, I think it's called I haven't looked at it in a while, but it's called excellence, what was it, culture of excellence on LinkedIn. And as far as that goes, does that idea of being able to perform better than your peers or teammates come into play?
I really think it's about what's the word I'm trying to think for? Symbiosis. I think it's not necessarily that we need to be better than someone in what we do, or we are the best at what we do. But we do something that's integral for the entire thing to work. So I think when I tell people this, I'm like, there's no difference between the person who's a heart surgeon versus someone who sweeps the floor, because without both of them, we have no society. So what we do is we need to start taking away the value of people who think they're better than other people, and start emphasizing the value of people who think they're below everyone else will be in a better place. So I agree with inspiration. I believe with someone like Michael Jordan showing how capable he is, but the message is really like, if I can do this, everyone, so can you.
Yeah, I completely agree. I've always valued collaboration more than competition, and I love the idea of collaborative efforts and who's the MVP of the collaboration. Who's the Michael Jordan of working together and making their teammates better. I always like watching, when I watch basketball, I always like watching the point guards, the people who set up shots for other people. That's what I really like.
It's interesting. I didn't even know that was the word like that. I like that.
Right on. I like that too. I definitely like that too. I think anyway, so who are some of the let's close with who are some of the famous point guards, since it sounds like you've been watching for a while?
Well, I grew up, watching, the 90s basketball. I always liked watching Stockton. He looked like a mailman. He's the skinny, like 6'3" white dude who just looked, there's a famous picture of him leaving a NBA Finals game and getting into a minivan. That just looks like him, but the man could just drop dimes like anybody. So I like watching him. I like watching, actually, Jason Williams, aka White Chocolate, was always fun to watch. He was very flashy with his crazy passes. He was never like a top point guard, but I just loved watching him play. I always liked those 90s Kings teams too. Being a Bay Area guy, the Warriors weren't really that interesting in that era.
Okay. Well, is there anything you would like to close with, Brian? Any questions? Additional questions or comments you'd like to close with?
Well, I think we talked about everything. I just wanted to thank you guys for being a part of this and doing this. I wanted to thank you, Rotimi, for having the show. Thank you, Tully, for being on it. And, I just feel really excited just to be a part of it. And, anyone watching this, and if someone out there wants to do something like this too, they should.
Yes.
Right on.
Just do it. As
do it.
The slogan goes.
Okay. Well, that's Rotimi, Tully, and Brian signing off.
Unmotive Show wants your experience with our channel to be enjoyable. Subscribe on YouTube for your weekly greeting from the website that makes cell phones look like snow cones. Don't forget that listeners can submit content for review on the website at www.unmotive.com. Getting closer to users and the listeners is what trends are all about. This isn't virtual. It's real interviews and cool web trends.